Ever feel like Gleba was the weird cousin of the Factorio planet family?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, definitely.
we're here to deep dive into how the developers are using this space age expansion to fix that, based on this blog post they just released.
It's a fascinating case study, actually. They're taking player feedback and weaving it with their own design goals to make Gleba feel less like an afterthought and more like a core part of the game.
For anyone who hasn't had the joy of conquering Gleba yet, it's one of the resource planets in Factorio. You know, that game where you build sprawling factories to fuel your insatiable hunger for automation. Each planet throws different resources and challenges your way, but Gleba always felt off.
The core issue is that Gleba relies on biological processes, which, in a game about building perfectly timed, efficient machines, made some players feel like they were trying to herd cats instead of crank out circuits.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit. On most planets, you're mining ore, smelting it, building with it. Nice, clean, predictable. Then Gleba saunters in with its alien plants, unpredictable growth cycles, and the whole bacteria thing.
And you can't just brute force your way through those biological systems like you can with mechanical ones.
Yeah.
It requires a different kind of thinking, and the payoff just wasn't there for a lot of players.
Especially when you compare the tech you unlock on Gleba to other planets. It just didn't feel as impactful or as game-changing.
Exactly. So the developers took a long, hard look at Gleba and thought, how can we make this planet sing? And their solution, based on this blog post at least, is a fascinating mix of reworking existing mechanics and introducing some truly revolutionary gameplay elements.
And by revolutionary, we mean you can now capture and utilize the biters. Those delightful creatures that love nothing more than ripping your factories to shreds.
Which is a brilliant example of the developers not just addressing the symptoms, but really getting to the root of the problem. You see, Gleba has always been tied to the biters in this weird adversarial dance.
So instead of just fighting them off, you're essentially harnessing the biters.
Mm.
Let's call it biological energy, and turning it to your advantage.
It's a clever way to make the biters a more integral part of the Gleba experience instead of just being a constant nuisance.
Okay, but how does it actually work? Do you just toss a net over a spawner and call it a day?
Not quite. It involves this new resource called bioflux. Think of it as the key to unlocking the biter secrets.
And where do we get this bioflux? Asking for a friend who may or may not have a factory to build.
You craft it, naturally, using those unique Gleba plants, Yumiko and Jellynet. You're basically concentrating their biological essence into a potent, controllable form.
Right, because everything in Factorio eventually comes back to crafting, doesn't it?
It's the circle of life, Factorio style. So you load this bioflux into a special capture robot, launch it from a rocket launcher.
Yeah.
Yes, you heard that right. A rocket launcher at a biter spawner.
Hold on. Did you say rocket launcher? This is where Gleba gets really Factorio, huh?
Exactly. It wouldn't be Factorio without a touch of controlled chaos. And the result. That spawner is rendered harmless. No more spawning endless waves of biters.
So you're not just defending, you're going on the offensive, taking out their spawn points. Strategic biter neutralization.
And it gets even better. You can actually collect biter eggs from the captured spawners.
Wait, back up a second. Biter eggs. What are we going to do with those? Make an omelet.
Maybe not breakfast, but they do open up a whole new world of possibilities in terms of resource management. Remember how we were talking about how Gleba's tech tree just didn't feel as rewarding?
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
By controlling biter spawners, you also gain control over the production of biter eggs. And these eggs, my friend, are the key to unlocking some truly game-changing technologies in the new biolab.
Speaking of the biolab, can we talk about how cool this thing looks? It's like somebody took a high-tech laboratory and spliced it with, well, an alien plant. It screams Gleba in the best possible way.
The visual design is definitely striking, but what's really impressive is what it does. Remember how we were talking about science packs being crucial for unlocking new technologies?
Yeah, they're like the currency of progress in Factorio.
Exactly. Well, the biolab essentially cuts your science pack consumption for research in half.
In half.
Right.
So you're telling me this biolab, fueled by alien eggs, can research twice as fast as anything we've seen before. That's game-changing, even for those of us who don't main Gleba.
Precisely. And it ties back to what we were saying earlier about Gleba's tech tree feeling lackluster. With the biolab, they're not just adding new technologies, they're fundamentally changing how you approach research and progression on this planet.
It's like they've unlocked a whole new dimension of the Factorio endgame. And to think, it all starts with those pesky biters. For all the talk about the biolab and biter taming, it sounds like they've made a ton of smaller improvements to Gleba too. Like, what else did they tweak?
Absolutely. They've revamped the map generation to make Gleba feel more diverse and interesting to explore. Previously, it was a bit hit or miss whether you get a good resource layout.
Yeah, I've definitely had those. Well, this is my life now, Gleba starts.
Right. But now they're promising more strategic resource placement and a wider variety of biomes, which should make exploration much more rewarding.
And it's not just about making the planet prettier, right? These changes actually have a big impact on gameplay.
Exactly. For example, the more diverse biomes will each favor different types of plants and bacteria. This means you'll need to adapt your factory setups and resource management strategies depending on where you're exploring and what you find. It adds a whole new layer of depth to Gleba's gameplay.
It's like they took Gleba from Factorio easy mode to, like, Factorio expert mode.
Huh. In a way, yes. And on top of that, they've also done a balance pass on the enemies in some of the resource gathering mechanics, which should make for a smoother and, dare I say, more enjoyable Gleba experience overall.
Music to my ears. Less grinding, more strategizing. I like it.
It really highlights how much care and attention the developers are pouring into this revamp. They're not just slapping on a fresh coat of paint, they're rethinking the whole Gleba experience from the ground up.
It's honestly making me want to start a new Factorio playthrough right now, just to see all these changes in action.
Me too. It's going to be fascinating to see how players adapt their strategies and what kind of crazy, efficient factories they come up with using these new tools and mechanics.
So to wrap it all up, what was once the forgotten planet of Factorio is about to get a major glow-up with the space age expansion. We're talking bacteria-powered factories, captured biter spawners, and a biolab that's straight out of a sci-fi dream. It's a testament to what happens when developers really listen to player feedback and aren't afraid to experiment with some truly out-there ideas.
It's a great reminder that even in a game as complex and intricate as Factorio, there's always room for evolution and innovation. And who knows what other surprises the space age expansion holds? We'll just have to dive in and find out.
And on that note, this has been a fantastic deep dive into Gleba's grand makeover. We'll be back next week with another exciting look at the Factorio universe. Until then, happy automating.